Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Sykesville Marin Town Council for Monday, February 8th. This meeting is taking place via Zoom US teleconference. In order to give public comment or listen to the meeting, you can call 1-301-715-8592. The meeting ID is 846-9111-1050, and the password is 207134. You will not be able to enter the meeting until 15 minutes prior, which has already happened. So once you entered, you will be placed on mute. We're going to call the meeting to order. So it's Pledge Allegiance followed by a brief moment of silence. Okay, so if I can pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then a brief moment of silence. Okay. Alrighty, so our first item with public comments, they are limited to 3 minutes per person. Please alert the staff that you'd like to make a public comment by pressing *9, which will raise your hand. Keep in mind, if the topic is not on the agenda, we will not be able to debate and talk about it. However, we'll certainly listen to your comment and we'll work on it if we can on a later date or if it requires attention. So are there any public comments?
Yes, we're going to start with Trevor Evans. You can go ahead and unmute and say your public comment, please.
Thank you. I'm speaking to you today in the hope that you will revisit your stance on keeping chickens in a residential backyard. In the past 2 years, over 500 towns and cities have revised their laws to allow for urban chickens. I know that some people will not like chickens in neighborhoods, but it doesn't seem like sufficient justification to not allow them. I personally don't like outdoor cats, pit bulls, or backyard pools, but I respect that my neighbors are allowed to have these personal freedoms within bounds. What I'm asking is the same consideration for my desire to express my personal freedom in my backyard. I think it's reasonable to regulate chicken ownership in backyards of R-zoned properties, and would be willing to follow all the county guidelines, or even to conform to the more stringent requirements you set for schools in Sykesville. Some common concerns with allowing chickens are that they will be loud, stinky, cause diseases, or attract wild animals and pests. But these are concerns based on myths or large-scale farms. Hens are not loud. Once a day for a few minutes, hens will vocalize while laying. It's only about 65 decibels, the volume of a normal human conversation. The rest of the day, hens are very quiet. By way of comparison, dogs bark at 100 decibels. The much louder roosters are not needed for egg production, and I'm not suggesting that they be allowed in residential areas. According to the CDC website, quote, there is no need at present to remove a family flock of chickens because of concerns regarding avian flu. Human cases of avian flu remain rare to date, even among persons exposed to infected poultry. A small yard with 50 chickens would smell terrible, but so would a small yard with 12 dogs or cats. No one is suggesting that either of those are reasonable numbers of pets. The county zoning administrator has recommended that up to 6 hens are reasonable in smaller lots. As a comparison, one 40-pound dog generates more than double the poop per day as 5 chickens, 12 ounces compared to 5 ounces. And most small coops are made to be easy to keep clean. Chickens kept as pets would also still be subject to the same health and nuisance regulations that apply to all pets. Lastly, people may worry that chickens will bring pests. In reality, chickens are omnivores and eat bugs and pests, including ticks, mosquitoes, and small rodents. While chicken feed could attract pests, it's unlikely to attract more than bird food that drops from the already permissible bird feeders located all over our town. I'm happy to provide you with sources so that you can follow up on my research, but please consider my request. And thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Trevor. Definitely appreciate it. We've looked at this in the past extensively, but we'll have staff, review the stuff, and we can discuss it. The council will discuss it at a future time. So appreciate you bringing it back up. Any other public comments, Carrie?
Yes. So next up we have Suriana. You can go ahead and.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Thank you for letting me speak to you today. I'm a mom of 3 young boys. I'm stuck at home during this pandemic, trying to do all my normal jobs, plus homeschool my kids. We've been struggling with feeling cooped up, and so we found a creative solution to give us an exciting activity, help teach my kids responsibility, and take our minds off everything we're missing. After weeks of research and hundreds of dollars spent, we were informed that Sykesville will not allow us to raise 3 backyard chickens. We were heartbroken. We tried hard to do our research before buying and honestly thought that chickens were allowed because Carroll County and Sykesville Town have word for word the same ordinances about agriculture. But the county has provided very clear guidance that a flock of 6 or less chickens are allowed as pets, not agriculture. But not so for Sykesville. I'm here today to beg you to adopt the interpretation of this law that the county uses. I'm not asking you to create any new laws, which I understand would be more work for you. I would just like for you to consider a small flock of hens as pets instead of agriculture, as the rest of Carroll County does. Right now in Sykesville, my neighbors are allowed to keep large dogs like pit bulls as pets. Did you know that more than 4.5 million people in the United States are bitten by dogs every year? Pit bulls make up 6% of pets, but they're responsible for 68% of all dog attacks and 52% of all dog-related deaths. On average, 2 people a day are injured by pit bulls. I searched hard, but I could find no documented deaths caused by raising backyard chickens. Why are potentially deadly dogs allowed, but not harmless chickens? Also, in my Sykesville neighborhood are very many outdoor cats who have free rein to wander and poop anywhere. Chickens are no more disease-ridden than outdoor cats and would be required to be kept in an enclosed coop, as county ordinance allows no free-ranging chickens. Why are these cats allowed and not chickens? Sykesville also allows residents to build pools in their backyards. 350 children under the age of 5 drown in pools every year nationwide, and drowning is the second leading cause of death to this age group. Yet, in spite of the danger from backyard pools without lifeguards, they're still allowed in Sykesville. My next door neighbor has both a pool and a pit bull. We have never protested their right to use their property as they want. Instead, we were watchful of our children. Now I'm questioning why they're allowed to have these dangerous things in their yard, yet I risk a $1,000 fine per day for having a few chickens which pose no risk to anyone. Every year, your office told us it gets calls from residents asking for chickens. People in Sykesville want these lovely, useful pets. Many people right now would love to have a chance to make even a small difference that helps to make life better for others during COVID-19. Today, I'm providing you with the opportunity to make a huge difference in my life and the lives and happiness of your constituents. Please help us by changing the city ordinance or adopting the county code regulations. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any additional comments, Karen?
That was it.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you both for bringing that to our attention again. And again, we'll see how we can work that into a future council discussion and see if it warrants revisiting it. But thank you for mentioning it. Okay, so our first item on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda. And this consists of the minutes from January 25th, 2021. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the consent agenda is approved. All right, and then our next item is the unfinished business, which consists of the public hearing on ordinance number 2021-01. This is for the fiscal year 2021 budget revisions. Joe, did you want to go through that, or has anybody got any questions? Or
Really just for the benefit of the public, I just wanted to make sure everybody understood. Again, our first budget revision for current fiscal year, most of the changes were related to accounting for the coronavirus relief funding that the town had received and several capital projects that had to be moved from FY20 to FY21. Again, there have been no changes since it was introduced a few weeks ago, and it's ready for approval tonight post public hearing.
okay. Is there any comments from any of the council, or we opening it up for the public hearing? Is that correct?
public hearing first.
Do we
Okay.
need a motion for that, Joe, or can we just open it up?
It's a good question. How do we typically handle public hearings? Is it motion to
Make
open?
a motion, yeah, motion
Yeah.
to open the public hearing.
I'll do
Motion.
that. Make a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance number 2021-01. Sorry to cut you off, Councilman Grassley.
That's okay. I'll second that.
All right. Okay, all those in favor? Any abstentions or any opposed? Okay, so all right, so the public hearing is open. Are there any public comments on the ordinance number 2021-01? Okay, well, having heard none, I guess we can actually close the public hearing, right? And then, okay, so
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2021-01.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so are there any council comments on the budget revisions?
Nope.
Motion to approve ordinance 2021-01.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that is approved. Thanks, Joe and Craig, for
Yes.
getting it straightened out. Appreciate that very much. All right, so our next item is to consider and discuss and act on ordinance number 2021-01, fiscal year 2021 budget revisions. Is that the?
No, we just did that,
Yeah,
Mayor.
we did that. I'm sorry.
New business.
I'm looking at it right. Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm reading. It's the same thing. All right. New business is the Downtown Sykesville Connection quarterly presentation. So I saw Julie here. So I'm gonna, I don't know if it's you or Dana. Who's taking care of this tonight?
Group effort.
Tag team.
Okay. So the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. For the one that don't know me yet, my name is Julie Della Maria. I am the Executive Director of the Downtown Sykesville Connection. The Downtown Sykesville Connection is a nonprofit organization that administers the Main Street program for the town of Sykesville, both the Maryland and the National Main Street program, and that achieve its mission through the operation of 5 different committees that I will describe to you tonight throughout the different slides. Can we go to the next slide, please, Carrie? I think that we all agree that turning a page on 2020 is comforting, and we all are excited and focusing on the glimpse of hope that comes with some needles of 2021. Moving on to the next slide, I will start by describing the activities of our organization committee that is focusing on the connection between resident, business owner, and visitor, and that did so this past year, as you may have noticed, by turning Sykesville pink for the Pink Fling that is raising awareness and funds for breast health. So it was a beautiful community effort with the community pulling together, and it was picked up by the W Baltimore, the TV channel. And if you have not seen the little video, I encourage you to check it out. Jen Elliott from Market Tavern was interviewed. So that was at the very end of a full month of decorating Sykesville and making the town beautiful from afar to engage visitors that did not want to visit the business. But we also created virtual maps that help them supporting their business, reaching out the business, the e-commerce website of the business, or figuring out opportunities for deal and special. So we mixed a little bit of both social distancing and virtual to try to serve everyone. We also completed the nonprofit filing of our organization. We are the real deal. And I think that's what's extremely exciting for us is that we were very entrenched and involved into the application process and the filing process, meaning that we have learned a lot about what it will take to keep our organization on the path to compliance and excellence when it comes to run a nonprofit. Another demonstration of community engagement when it matters the most was the Happyton fundraising of 2020 that was extremely successful. And thank you everyone on this call tonight, because I think that you all kindly and generously participated to this effort that raised very close to $17,000 and served 78 children of our community, mostly downtown Sykesville. This committee is, and I know that Mayor Shaw got to witness this firsthand because he was there as we were waiting outside for waves of children to come safely pick up their gifts. We are currently with that committee continuing to work on our work plans and several projects that have been inspired of our experience of 2020. We are going to rely on the youth and create a youth committee and let those kids show us the way. We are also going to have to work on a school staff reward program. On to the next slide, we are now going to explore what the DSC did with the design committee, also taking lessons from the pandemic. We have decided to develop a coloring book. As you may know, coloring has been used as a therapeutic tool to fight isolation and depression and promote wellness and mental health. So with an award from the Carroll County Arts Council, we are currently producing a coloring book that has illustration in it made by a local artist with whom we already have worked before, Wade Forbes, and that is being sponsored and supported by all the downtown local wellness businesses. We also are creating a welcome to Sykesville, greeting to Sykesville sign that will be an opportunity for people that still prefer to be outside to visit our downtown and take a picture in front of. This project has been vouched by the Historic District Commission and the Zoning Commission, so we are in the very final step before being able to unveil it for you. Very soon also, we will provide you with links for a virtual historic story map that was realized by Sarah Bondroff, our high school intern. It will be a way for you to be able to visit all and learn more about the historical building of downtown Sykesville from the comfort of your sofa, without the frozen feed that Transport Junction is making us go through right now. We are also with that committee developing our work plan and looking at expanding that project of virtual story map to public art, because we start having quite a bit of it now downtown Sykesville. And we are working to identify more grant opportunity to support the development of those projects. The next slide will show you the activities of our Economic Development Committee that was also very busy. We created a Welcome to Sykesville for Businesses package. As you may see, that bag has everything in it, including hand sanitizer, a snack, and some water, but most importantly contain all the resources that a small business needs to have to be able to set themselves up in an historic district and reach out the right people regarding the different steps of establishing a small business. I have listed below all the grants that we have either received, applied for, or are awaiting an answer for. I think the one that is to note is the MDSERI grants that we just recently released and are currently administering. This grant is meant to provide the small business owner of downtown Sykesville with rent relief. This is going to take a good chunk of our time, but we are still looking at more work plan development and also providing the same type of bag I just described for the business, but for the residents this time, with probably coupons for the businesses, a map, and something a little more fun than the one we made for the businesses. We also focused more on quality than quantity over the pandemic, because for sure it would not have been a good idea to draw too many people on Main Street. So we created very unusual program like the Secret Santa or Secret Admirer, when we asked people to shop for strangers that brought them to business they would not have visited otherwise. And we had an overwhelming positive feedback about creating those opportunities for people to discover places and connect with business owner. On to the next slide. I will describe what our Green Committee achieved, and it was a big piece of development for us as we completed the Keep America Beautiful training and received the Keep Sykesville Beautiful certification and designation. If you want to visit our homepage, downtownsykesville.com, you will see at the top of the menu the tabs that will take you to the Keep Sykesville Beautiful page. That page is explaining the program to everyone. The program is a collaboration between the town of Sykesville, Park and Recs, Downtown Sykesville Connection, the Trash Trooper now, and Public Walk. So what we are all coordinating our effort instead of working in parallel. And that page will show you different resources available in the limit of the town of Sykesville or the surrounding neighborhood. And you will be able to find places to recycle, volunteer opportunity, information about the different cleanups that are organized. As you may see, the one that was conducted at the end of October was very well attended. And a good way to solve environmental issues is, as you can see, kid slavery. The first picture is my children being forced to work for the greater good. Next to that is the owner of the French Twist Cafe, Ellen Taylor, helping, and you won't recognize her because she's bending over, but Councilwoman Stacy Link was the one leading the charge to get Sykesville cleaner. Park and Rec's chairs were also present and helped a lot with that initiative. Last but not least, the last slide will show you what the promotion committee did. That promotion committee had a big job this year because it had to be continuing focusing on our mission and our long-term goal, but it also had to come up with a now team. And now we have to change everything, we have to redo, and that was due yesterday. But through the effort of our event coordinator, we would renew this contract with us, and I'm extremely happy about that because he signed with us last year about 4 days before the shutdown, so he doesn't have a big event under his belt yet, but he has showed tremendous skill adapting and creating and innovating for us to keep doing things. So he was a big driver of the Sykesville Motorcycle Poker Run that had a few VIPs in it, Mayor Shaw and President Council Al Grasley were present, and we had the best weather ever. It was a very good event. We also learned to do more virtual thing with the Battle of the Band, completely virtual, that ended up on Main Street. With a few residents at their window clapping and enjoying almost a private show. We also had our first golf tournament, another big success for us, which was also very important because it was a fundraiser. So we also completed a full season of farmers market during a pandemic. And I have to say that we're pretty happy with the outcome of it. We got positive feedback from the merchants that a layout on Main Street really drove food traffic on Main Street and helped small businesses, as opposed at the model we had in the past that drew people off Main Street. So we are going to learn from that and develop a hybrid model in 2021 to take advantage of the pandemic lesson. I am not going to talk very much about the PR Platinum large project that we had this year. It was funded by the state. It was a big piece for us because it came with becoming a nonprofit. So it's the perfect opportunity for us to work on our identity and communication. Dana Alonzi, our board president, will be the one describing this to you as she was very involved in the development of that project. So I will leave you on that last slide, which is some good old memory before we make new ones. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. So I guess Dana, are you going to share some stuff too next?
I am, yes.
Okay.
Carrie, thank you. So before I go on, does anybody have any questions for Julie or comments? I don't want to step in too early.
Well, I got a couple of comments real quick. I just wanted to say
Okay.
thanks a lot for everything that you've done this year. It's been an amazing year in one of the most difficult times that I think we could have ever not even imagined. So wanted to say thank you for doing such a great job. The welcome package, I think, is a great idea for the businesses. That was something we talked about many years ago. So glad to see you were able to get something worked out on that. And then all your help with the grants for the small businesses and stuff, man, I can't thank you enough for that. I know how much that means to them, and every little bit helps all of our small businesses. The farmers market, man, what a great job breaking that up this year to make it work so everybody wasn't all together. And I really think people like that. That was fantastic. So I wanted to thank you for that. Great job resecuring Troy, because I know he worked on that golf tournament, and that was like really cool. Never golfed before in my life. So for the golf for the first time and to have some of the staff members put up with that, thought it was really a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward. I just got the email to sign up. So looking forward to signing up for next year before it sells out. And I think that was all the comments I had. There's a bunch more stuff you've done, but I won't. And then the Happy-thon, man, what a great job of, getting all that money this year at a most difficult time. I'm sure families were all struggling, and just such a great need here in the community, which we don't always think about. I don't realize, you don't realize there's that many people in need of help in our community. So wanted to thank you for that. So, and I know there's a lot more, but I'll let others if they want to share or something. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I would say too, Julie, the two new events you did this year were just excellent. Usually you're expecting a little something bumpy ride, but the motorcycle poker run and the golf tournament was just phenomenal. I can't wait for them next year. So great way to be adaptable and keep Main Street in everybody's forethought.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think I'll get going on these last few DSC slides. And yes, I will also say thank you, Julie. Julie is amazing, and we have a lot to show for 2020 because of her. So thank you, everybody, for letting me speak tonight. One of the last bullet points in one of Julie's last slides was about the PR, the branding and marketing discovery that the DSC just went through. And I was a pretty big part of it. And you'll see as we move through these slides that during our discovery, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but during our discovery, some of the things that came up were that largely the DSC, people think that the DSC is Julie. Oh, okay. Can you hear me? No. Okay.
We can hear you.
I
can hear you because you're in the next room.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I can hear you.
Sorry about that. So I'm not sure if you heard me say, but one of the things that came up during our focus group discussions is that largely the community thinks that the DSC is Julie. So we thought it would be a good idea that that a board member be front and center. And board advocacy is also another theme that came up during our branding and marketing project. So a little bit of background, we worked with a company called Platinum PR, and they are based out of Frederick, Maryland, and they were recommended to us by the Main Street, Maryland program coordinator. We began the process in September, and we just concluded. Although we are still in the implementation phase, largely the work is done. The process consisted of a survey to stakeholders. We had 55 responses, which Platinum PR told us was excellent and one of the highest yields they've ever had. There were 2 focus groups held in October, and there were 25 stakeholders invited. And Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had a total of about close to 15 out of those 25 that were invited.
That's about right.
Okay, thank you. And the 2 women who led the charge on this this project from Platinum PR, they actually came to Main Street and did a site visit. As far as the details of what businesses they went in and out of and what rules they followed, those were theirs. They were in charge of that, and we didn't get a ton of detail about who they visited and what happened, just the feedback that they were given. And then a marketing SWOT analysis was done with recommendations, and a prioritized plan was presented to the board of directors and the executive director at our 2 last board meetings. Next slide, Carrie. So one of the things that came, I mean, this was months and months of work and pages of presentation and recommendations. And I'm really only going to get into what applies to the town council meeting. And there was a question about, hey, whatever happened about that whole conversation that we had during the focus group about the confusion that is the DSC the town? Is the town the DSC? We had a lot of conversation about that I was at one of the focus groups as a focus group participant. And that was a pretty heavy theme at that focus group. And from that SWOT analysis, the relationship with the town was identified as a strength, and I could not agree more. But confusion with the town was listed as a weakness, an opportunity, and a threat. And that's not to say that the strength and the weakness, opportunity, and threat can't coexist. There was a lot of conversation about the fact that sometimes it's okay if there is confusion, and sometimes it's okay if people think that the DSC is the town and that the town is the DSC. What's the harm? So the outcome of all of that, per the experts, is that when confusion with the threat is that when the confusion may harm potential fundraising or volunteer opportunities. And so that's where the work is to be done, and where we're at with deciding how to implement a plan for that. So next slide, please, Carrie. Thank you. So this is the final slide. So the recommendations came in 3 categories: messaging and promotions, which is pretty much the only thing I'm going to get into any detail about; board advocacy, which I mentioned, which is why I wanted people to see my face. By the way, I don't think I really properly introduced myself. My name's Dana Alonzi. I'm the board president of the DSC, and I've been a resident of the town of Sykesville for 15 years. And I've been very, very engaged with the Main Street program since it began in Sykesville in 2011. Board advocacy and digital marketing optimization. So the asterisk that I have next to messaging and promotions is really just kind of where I want to leave or tie up the connection with the last slide about why confusion with the town could potentially be a threat, and how do we implement a plan to deal with that. So these are the words that came from Platinum PR in their recommendations, that the objective when it comes to messaging is to produce a clear and consistent message to decrease confusion about the downtown Sykesville connection and its role in the greater Sykesville community. So for example, when we reach out, when the DSC reaches out in fundraising efforts, specifically seeking sponsorships for our activities, our events, our programs, we use Coolest Small Town in America and Best Main Street in America, or we've used Coolest and Best as a slogan. And that really attracts people wanting to engage in sponsorship, and it becomes a form of collateral for those sponsors. So what we talked about with Platinum PR is creating an expectation with our partners where we would do a level of education of what our expectation is so that we can achieve this goal. And the goal being to decrease confusion and to help people understand that they are involved. They are engaging with a nonprofit organization trying to deliver their mission. And that once that education is done, that those partners will want to participate in the goal of reducing that confusion. So an example that we talked about would be if, let's say, Warfield, who is one of our partners, if all of their marketing materials were to have coolest and best, coolest small town in America, best main street in America, that was all over Warfield's marketing, well, that would create confusion with them as well. Town of Sykesville, if all of a sudden the trash and recycling trucks had new town of coolest and best on the side of the trucks, well, then now that's tied to the town again. And anytime we're using that with trying to gain sponsorship, people are going to think it's a town program and that they're being asked to sponsor a town program. But the DSC is a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission. And that's really where I think when you're seeking sponsorship, it's important that the messaging be clear and why we love our relationship with the town, and we don't care if people think that we're the town until it matters if someone thinks that we're the town. So I hope that I've been clear about this, because I feel like maybe I haven't. So if you want to ask me any questions, that's fine. But basically, we're in the implementation phase right now. We are just talking about what to do next. We haven't even finished with Platinum PR yet. And that we have a lot of meetings planned to finalize the implementation and come up with what are we doing next in the next month. And that's it. Unless anybody has any questions for me.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions.
Any questions? Yeah, go ahead, Jeremiah.
Do you want to go first, Mayor?
No, go ahead. I was asking if anybody had any questions, so you can go first.
So a question that I guess I have is, I think that you all do just absolutely fantastic work in the downtown Sykesville connection. And I personally really appreciate the partnership that Julie, you and I had in terms of trying to get the other grant program for small businesses about a year ago or so. So really do appreciate that. In reference to the marketing piece and this confusion aspect of things, are there any things that the town is currently doing that is creating this confusion specifically? Is there anything on the website or whatnot? And I guess part of maybe a concern I have is the potential of limiting branding for the town in the future. And is there, I think there should be a partnership. I think that's kind of what you're saying as well. And so how do we do that? Are you going to share kind of what your plans are for branding? And then how does that all, have you figured that out yet?
So I'm going to let Julie jump in. I'm just going to say, because I'm guessing she probably has a lot to say, but I'm just going to say one more thing about the way Platinum PR has advised messaging when it comes to your point, Jeremiah, that it's called recognition messaging. So whenever a partner would potentially be, let's just stick with coolest and best for the moment, for the purposes of the conversation, that if we were actually partnering on a thing that we would need to insist, that was their terminology, that it would say in partnership with the downtown Sykesville connection. So that's the only little tidbit from Platinum PR that I feel like I probably should have said while I was speaking. But regarding current things that are happening, Julie, do you wanna talk about that?
Sure, because they're excellent questions, and I think that
yeah, they are.
It's happening indirectly. For instance, and we're completely responsible for culturing that too. Often we forgot to we said we, but we don't say who is we, and we should say the downtown Sykesville connection and the town of Sykesville, and move away from that confusing message when we just roll everyone into it. And we have realized that we need to be also better at using the town logo next to ours, because then it's two logos, and we just need to continue being consistent with that. It's two great partners. It's a strong collaboration. It's a symbiotic relationship, but they each have their purpose. It's a two-head beast, and each beast has its own way of thinking, its own responsibility alone and toward the other. So for instance, on the town website, if there would be a tab sending to the downtown Sykesville connection, it might help help people understand that it is a collaboration, but you're going to a different website. You're going to deal with a different group of people. So it's tiny piece of things like that we can completely improve, and that we have a list to go through with a PR company. But as long as we're clear in our messaging, and we benefit from you, the mayor and town council, being our advocates as well, like it will solve itself. And I think we're on a good path right now. And I just wanted to add one little thing, because I think there was some confusion at the last meeting. We did get state funding matching for what we did together, Jeremiah, with the town. We got $16,000 from the state, and I saw that last meeting. It might not have been clear. So another example of the perfect collaboration.
I guess my only kind of follow-up to it is, as long as there's communication, and of course there's always communication, right? But we just want to make sure that there's communication between the town and you all in reference to this, then I think it could be a really, really strong partnership in the future.
I agree. I think the communication, though you might have scared Joe for him, I think he has enough communication with me as is.
We're already talking too much. We already talk too much now.
Any other questions for Dana or Julie? And I just wanted to say, I mean, I totally understand what you're getting at with this point. I guess it's going to be challenging when you have like coolest small town in America and best Main Street in America but obviously, so those things they're just going to go with the town. I mean, it's going to be hard to like get that out with the DSC. Like the DSC is the coolest Main Street in America. I mean, it doesn't but I understand the intent of what you're doing. And I think we can maybe, as we do promote stuff, maybe saying, in conjunction with, or, recognizing, so it recognizes your efforts to achieve those things somehow. And I think that's what really the goal is to make sure you're recognized as a independent nonprofit. I think that'll help too, is maybe when we put in stuff is saying, coolest Main Street in America in conjunction with the nonprofit in downtown Sykesville, somehow that wording, so it is recognized as different. But obviously little slogans and things could go with the DSC. I guess you guys should be thinking about a branding for you, that is independent, some sort of independent branding that can flow with the town's branding somehow, yeah. So I'll let you figure that. I mean, you guys are good at that. So some sort of branding model might be good, but.
Yeah. And like I said, we're not done with Platinum PR, and, we paid them quite a bit of money to do this for us. So we're going to let them do what they do. And what, whatever the next steps are is kind of what we're figuring out. So they've already been quite helpful in some jumping off points regarding what you're talking about. But yeah, they're the experts, and I think there's more to come for sure.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys. If there's no other questions, but is there anything else, or are we good? Well, thank you both for everything you do and for taking the time tonight to get us all up to speed on everything. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to our next item. Forgive me, I was all excited, so I moved my agenda. Okay, All right, so our next item is number 5, which is to just consider and discuss the election documents and process. So as you all know, we have an election coming up. We're doing things a little bit different, I think, on the nomination primarily, it would appear to me. So, Joe, I don't know if you want to go over the form. I had one thing that I wanted to ask you about, but I'll let you go over everything first. So I think the nomination form was nomination process in the past has been a little bit confusing and cumbersome for town staff because they had to wait for people to come in. And I think they're trying to make it easier to nominate and be accepted.
Just to educate everybody a little bit on the process, particularly because it's going to be virtual this year. So we want to try to put steps in place to both keep staff safe and members that want to run for council, keep them safe during the nomination process. But I'm actually going to let Carrie do the updates since she's the one that's going to be in charge of running the election this year, and as in years past.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Joe. So in the past, and what we'll also do this year, except as in a virtual format, people who are interested in running would come to a town council meeting, and this year virtually can come to the town council meeting on March 22nd. And they would bring 2 people with them, one to nominate them and one to second the motion for them to run. Our nomination form has a place for the nominees' information, but then also a place for a motioner and a seconder to sign. So it's the same sort of process that they would go through just on a paper form. And those will be dropped off up until 4 p.m. on March 22nd. And then we'll take virtual nominations at the meeting that night. So that's the major change for nominations. Mr. Mayor, was your question about nominations or further on?
Yeah, so my question was the way you have in the form, right, on the mail-in voting form, I think there's some confusion for me at least on that. So on the second page of the document, the addendum item number. But anyway, so where it says beginning February 9th, mail-in voting forms will be available on the town website at the townhouse. Well, yes. We can't have voting forms, right? Because we won't have the nomination yet. So what people will be able to do is fill out the form, and then town staff will hold that. That's if they want to do a mail-in ballot. Town staff will hold that until April 15th is when our ballot will be officially ready. And at that point, ballots will go out to anybody who has submitted that form. And then after April 15th, people who submit the form can get the ballot right that day in their hand.
I think it's just phrased wrong, Ian. It says mail-in voting forms. It should say application.
Yeah.
Mail-in ballot.
That's what I'm getting at. Shouldn't it say application for, yeah, correct. That's what thanks, Leah.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's the application form that they can turn in.
Right.
It'll be available starting tomorrow.
Okay, that's good. Yeah,
that in at any time.
Maybe application, because right now it looks like you're getting the voting form. Well, the voting form won't be ready.
Gotcha.
Okay.
No, the form to apply for a mail-in ballot will be on the website tomorrow.
Gotcha. That was the only question I think I had, but.
Yes, and so for mail-in ballots, we are going to have a ballot drop box that we're borrowing from Carroll County. We are strongly recommending that people use this drop box because we don't know what's going on with the U.S. Postal Service, and ballots need to be back to the town by the close of polls on Election Day, which is May 4th at 8 p.m. So that does not leave a lot of time for the mail to actually happen. So we're highly encouraging this ballot drop box to be used.
Al, did you have a question?
Yes, Carrie. Hey, I did have a question. So the nomination form, if you get the nomination form into you,
yes,
before the meeting, then we will be nominated.
Yes.
Or whoever puts the form in will be nominated.
Yes.
So is there a plan to just read the people who have submitted the form before that meeting?
Yep, at the March 22nd meeting, just like we would with any other nomination, we would read it into the record so we know who's officially been nominated.
Okay, and then with this nomination and the form going in, they still don't have to accept it, is that correct? Or with the nomination form, as soon as we hand it in, Is that an acceptance of running also?
So the nomination form is an acceptance of running.
Okay.
If you are at the council meeting and you have it you're nominated virtually like that, you would still have to fill out a acceptance of candidacy form.
Okay.
But the nomination and acceptance is all in one form here.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, but that's where we've been having the challenges, right? In the past, waiting for nominees to accept. Is that what your concern was, trying to rectify some of that, or?
Well, my main concern was trying to figure all this out virtually. But yes, so up until April, I believe it's 12th, is when nominees have the ability to accept their nomination and become candidates. And so we're not changing that. That's still our set date this year. But we're just trying to cut down on the number of forms people will have to fill out and make it easier since we are in a virtual format.
But I guess to Al's point, once you sign the form, you've already accepted.
Yes.
Yes. So.
Yeah. So if you don't want to run, you don't turn in your nomination form.
Right. All right. Gotcha. Any other questions on this? Anybody else? Any questions?
Barry, can you explain so that the public is aware of like the security around the ballot boxes? I'm not super clear. I don't think I've ever used one of those before. I typically mail in my voting for different things. And of course I come to the town building when I vote for these local elections. Thank you.
So the ballot drop box it's locked, and it'll be located on the side porch of the town hall, which is under the video surveillance from the police department. And I believe Joe and Derek were looking into securing it, drilling into the concrete or chaining it to something, so that way it can't be moved.
Yeah, we'll figure out a way to make sure that no one can walk off with the drop box.
And it'll be emptied on a daily basis, correct?
Yes.
Carrie?
Mm-hmm.
Carrie, just for clarification, for those that want to attend the Zoom meeting on the 22nd, you have to have somebody nominate you and then somebody second it. So
yes.
if there is a candidate that's interested, can they have their person that nominates them and their second in the same room with them? Or do those people have to be on separate Zoom calls?
No, they can all be on one Zoom call, or they could be on separate ones. We'll make it work, however somebody has it.
I just wasn't sure if they could all be in the same room together. And
yep, as long as we can see everybody and hear everybody.
Okay, thank you.
So Carrie, a follow-up to that would be the comment you just made about their video would have to be on. It wouldn't be enough to just be a phone call in. It would have to be a join via Zoom link via the internet with the ability to have a video available via a internet webcam on their device.
That's a good question that I forgot about, the phone call capabilities of Zoom. Joe, what do you think?
I think at the end of the day, as long as we confirm that the person is in fact a registered voter, whoever it is, that's, as long as we can show that there's some connection there, we should be okay. But again, that's part of the reason why we prefer the form this year, because there's a name that's going to be on there, an address that's going to be on there of the person that's doing the nominating, a name and address of the person that's doing the seconding, and then hopefully an acceptance of whoever had just been nominated. So again, it makes it easier for us to be able to confirm who those people are.
What happens if somebody doesn't get their nomination form in by 4 o'clock, but then tries to do a nomination and a second at the Zoom meeting? The way this reads right now is you have to have your nomination in by 4 o'clock.
The form.
You have to have the
nomination form in.
Okay, but if let's say you don't get a form in, but then you want to try to do a nomination.
You can do it at the meeting.
You can still do it virtually.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could still do it at the meeting.
Again, that's why we're trying to encourage people to use the form, but we're not shutting it off. The fact that we're not shutting it off at 4 o'clock on the 22nd. You can still come to the meeting and do the nomination and second. It just makes it a little bit harder for us to verify whether or not the person that did the nominating and the seconding is in fact the people that they say they are.
Gotcha.
Well, and I think that's to Stacy's point. I think if you can't do the camera, you should do the form, because I think we should be able to, because one of the things about the nomination process, and we don't want to change the intent of in-person, is that the people had to show up and we could verify they were who they say they were, right? So I think that if we want to maintain the intent, you should be able to see your face on the Zoom, or use the form if you're unable to do that. Like if you can't do the picture, right? So that's the way I would encourage people to say, if you don't have a webcam and you want to get nominated and or be a seconder, please use the form. Does that make sense? Because I
agree with that, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. So I think
here's the thing: if somebody wants to run for a position on the council or for mayor this coming May, then it's that person, it's the to-be candidate's responsibility to get the nomination form completed. So this isn't going to be a surprise to anyone who's getting nominated, I would assume.
Right.
And so, yeah, I agree with what you said about the camera, but I also feel like this is up to the people that would like to run and become candidates to get the form completed and signed by the first and second motioners.
Right. Now, so let's put the responsibility on them. I like that. And then, but I just think I don't want the town staff to try to be running around figuring out who was on the phone call and verifying a phone number, basically, right? Because it's going to be hard to do that. So
I'm pretty sure if they get nominated or if they get elected, they're going to need a Zoom account to attend our meetings over the summer. So,
right. Good point.
I have one other question about the nomination form. Carrie, do you actually need, can you get all the signatures, scan it, and email it to you? Or do you want the physical original form, I guess?
I don't see why we wouldn't accept a scanned copy, especially with how we're trying to limit the in-person interactions of folks. So as long as it's filled out and we can clearly read everybody's name and address on there, I think we'll accept it.
Or we should probably put like an email address maybe on the form of where you want it to go.
Sure. And if anybody's listening and is wondering, it's town, TOWN, @Sykesville.net. But we'll also get that on the form.
Good. That was good. I'm glad you brought that up because there is no email on the form. So
May I suggest in the long term, though, that the original ink on paper be acquired just in case some pedantic person says, but it says, then you could say, they match. Here's the real one. Here's the one I gave. They're the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just one other consideration, and I'm not sure how many folks in our community are affected by this, but what happens for those that either have low vision or blind or deaf or hard of hearing? What's the process for them to nominate themselves or become nominated? Is it different?
So deaf or hard of hearing, the best bet would be to fill out this form, because that way they don't have to participate in the virtual call. We do have a form for if you need help with your ballot, filling out your ballot or anything like that. Would we need that for this, Joe?
No, typically not. Again, if somebody needs assistance filling out the form, that's just the nominating process. So we can certainly confirm with them, after we receive the form, that they in fact do want to run for council.
And they could probably contact the town, you all at the town building and figure out, if there's any special things that they need to do. I just want to make sure that the public is aware that we're not disadvantaging anyone that wants to.
Right.
And one more thing of the process I want to make sure we get clarified. The election is May 4th, which is Tuesday. The first council meeting after that is Monday the 10th. We always run into the problem as to who's going to be attending the first council meeting after that.
Well, so the new people, or new if it's returning people, get sworn in on the third Monday of the month, which is after that first council meeting in May.
Perfect. Thank you, Carrie.
Yep. Julie, you raised your hand. Do you have a question?
Yes, I think where you're planning on putting the logbox for voting as a step to it. In this way, it won't be ADA accessible.
It'll be right on the edge of that,
Okay.
so you won't have to step up to get to it.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you.
No, you're good. Thank you.
And then I guess just clarification on how you're going to verify the votes. So you have to still request the ballot, but then they have to sign it, right? And then how do you verify that, Carrie, if you want to?
Yes. So if somebody requests a mail-in ballot, they will get an envelope that they will have to return the ballot in. And they will have to sign on the back. It's the same voter oath that is on the state election mail-in ballot form or envelopes. And then it's sealed, stuck in the drop box, stuck in the USPS mailbox. When it gets to us, it goes still sealed in its envelope into the ballot box, and it's not opened until the close of polls when our Board of Elections starts to count the votes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Carrie on the process? Is everybody comfortable with that? It's a little bit different, obviously. COVID-19's caused some election problems.
So I just have one comment or expression of a concern or potential, I guess, concern. I know that we've been doing these live streams for a year now, almost, and I know that they get some good foot traffic the night of, and they also get some good views afterwards. Is there going to be any other form of communication of this bigger and more expand opportunity for our local election voting process via mail-in ballot and the requesting of such ballot other than this evening's recorded meeting?
Yes, so it'll go on our town website. I have the website already. I just got to hit go live tomorrow morning. It'll go on the front page, and then there's its own election information page. And then throughout the whole election season, we'll be posting on Facebook. We'll be posting more updates on our website. Joe and I discussed news flashes in the email system. I forgot where we landed on that, but we will figure that out when we get down that road more. But yeah, we plan on getting out a lot of information about this election.
So just maybe a couple of other ideas. We've done, those signs like we do for Christmas. I would suggest those signs as well so that people are aware, just in case, some people, they work all day online and they don't want to be online anymore after that. And there might be some people that don't, a certain vendor, I'll say, has recently limited the amount of broadband access that people have, and they might want to be trying to limit that. And so it's just like those sorts of considerations, and then maybe the paper as well. And you're probably already thinking about those things, but.
Yep. So we have yard signs that we've used in the past, and I've started trying to draft up some words to put on there for how to get a mail-in ballot, more so than just election day is May 4th. So we are thinking outside of electronic terms as well.
Anything with Carroll County Times?
I haven't reached out to them. We usually do, I think, 3 legal ads about the election. But I'll reach out to our normal reporter as well and see if we can get just a normal article about how to request a mail-in ballot.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
No, just as per the usual, the staff rocks. Thanks you guys for putting all this effort in and getting ahead of it. I appreciate it.
Yep, it's been a challenging time. So yeah, we got to be a little bit creative this time. Oh, and we should mention that the voting in person will be one way only, right? So we're going to have one way in, one way out, and I'm not expecting massive crowds to be like, you should be able to socially distance quite easily at the Sykesville voting box, because I've never waited in line for more than 0 seconds.
And just in case there are massive crowds, I'll be limiting people in the conference room. I think I had it out at 3 people in at a time, so I'll be out there limiting. And everybody who votes in person does get a nifty I voted pen. That way we don't have to contaminate pens.
Right. So still probably pretty safe to vote in person in Sykesville if you're so inclined. So.
And masks must be worn inside town hall.
Yep. Thank you. Yep. That reminder. Of course, I think everybody knows they got to wear a mask everywhere now. But if you, thanks for the reminder on that, Carrie. So,
Julie raised her hand again. Julie, do you have another question?
Just said the CMC does such a great job broadcasting videos, and I wonder if they would be able to help you out as much as they did help us with the Battle of the Band. And I think what would be also super useful is broadcasting a little video to show people where the box is and how to use it. Those are so much more engaging and also have some kind of an educational purpose. People will immediately recognize where it is, how to get there, and how to do it.
Joe and I actually talked about doing a little video today. And we're planning on doing our normal candidate forum this year, but that the CMC always helps us broadcast as well.
With new questions. I'm not kidding. That wasn't supposed to be funny.
No.
We'll try to shake it up some this year.
I would like new questions.
I haven't heard the questions.
Well, Joe, just get online and check it out. They've been the same for a bit.
All righty. Okay. Any other questions, comments for Carrie?
And I have dreams of there being one of the most massive turnouts in voting this year in Sykesville's history. There's never a line, but I'd like there to be a line, not necessarily in the pandemic, but a line of people to drop their ballots in our ballot box or whatever their comfortable means is. But I'd love to see turnout at our local elections, at our town government elections, 3 times what they've been.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, the more the merrier. Yep. So, and it should be perfectly safe, even if as many people come out as possible. I don't anticipate it being an unsafe thing. So, come on out, vote. It's important. So I agree. All right. So without any other comments, questions? All righty. All right. Our next, so do we need to enter, what do you want to do on that, Joe? Do we need to approve that? Is that going to be something we need to approve this new form and this process, or?
No, it was just discussion to get your all's feedback, make sure you're comfortable with the process, and then we'll go ahead and get it live and get it out to the public starting tomorrow.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, next item then is to the introduction of the resolution number 2021-01. This is for the annexation of the Sykesville, or the Schoolhouse Road, property. Joe, did you want to?
Yeah, I'll go through this briefly again. This is just an introduction tonight, so really this is just the first step in what's going to be a several-month process in reviewing this annexation. So as you guys were made aware at last meeting, we did receive this annexation request. It's off of Schoolhouse Road. If you look at our zoning map, it's kind of that elongated triangular piece on the southern end of town. It's made up of several different parcels that are basically partially in the town and partially out of the town. So basically what this annexation will do is correct some of those irregularities and then allow for a nice cohesive planning process for the future development of the larger parcel that's down there. So what's ultimately will be proposed down there is 5 single-family lots that's allowed per the conservation zoning, assuming this does make it through the annexation process, which again, we have no reason to believe that it won't or it shouldn't. So again, before you tonight is the introduction of this annexation. Again, several parcels there, the main one off of Schoolhouse Road, and then several others off of Oklahoma Avenue there. After it's introduced here, it will go through the county review process. It will make an appearance before our Planning Commission for review and recommendation, and then eventually will come back to council for a public hearing and ultimate decision on that. So with that brief update, I do know the property owners and their representatives are on the call tonight. They've been patient. I don't know if they have anything more to add to that, or they just want to make themselves available for questions or comments from the council. But again, the purpose of tonight is just to get this introduced, and then it'll start on its review path.
Okay. Any comments, questions on this item?
Just one question for me, Mayor, and I'm not sure if it's appropriate to ask right now, and just shut me down if it's not appropriate. So do we know if this is, if the new parcels that are going to go into this area, are they going to have town water and sewage, or is this going to be septic and wells? Do we know that yet, or is that way too early to figure out?
No, I think Joe can probably chime in, but I think this is well and septic, correct, Joe?
Yeah, these lots are rather large. Again, unless the owners know something different than I do, I think well and septic is what the intent is there.
Thank you.
Joe, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So this annexation is only to annex, at this point, annex the property into the town limits. It doesn't necessarily approve the development.
That's correct. Once it's annexed, then it'll go through the development process.
Okay. But the annexation isn't an automatic guarantee that those 5 buildable lots will be approved.
That's correct.
Right. But the zoning, keep in mind, the zoning does allow it. So it's very difficult, it's permitted zoning, permitted use. So
That's a very good point, Ian. We've had this conversation in the past with other attempts for annexation,
right.
and I think it's important for the citizens and for obviously the town council to know what the citizens would like to have happen to this parcel, because if annexed, as you just said, Mayor, the zoning would allow for those 5 parcels to be developed with single family homes on each.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I think this, like the staff has said, this was really kind of a mistake. I think. I mean, you can see the way this doesn't sort of make sense, and there's parts of parcels in the town and parts of parcels out of the town. It just looks to me like it was some sort of zoning drawing mistake, but they're trying.
I don't know. I think it looks pretty intentional to me. I'm just kidding. It really does look like it might be.
Twisted mind was doing that, but
yeah. It's one or the other, right? It's the extreme of one or the other of those.
Right. I think somebody, just based on the numbers, like when they were writing it down, missed something, because it happens in real estate a lot. I've seen where the weird things where somebody didn't pick it up and then carry it over. But
the planning commission joke was, we didn't annex it because we thought it already was.
All right, there you go. Okay, any other questions, comments on this? Okay, all right.
I think we should ask the property owners or their representatives at least one question, because they've been here for an hour.
Okay.
Just to throw something out there.
I'll ask a question. Currently there's a walking path that essentially goes right through this property. And it goes down to where the railroad tracks are there. And I'm not sure if it's right on the property line itself, or if it's in 1, 2, 3, 4A property. But are there any thoughts from the property owners in terms of development of that as part of this? And I know it's really early in this process, and you might not know the answer to that question, but I live really close to here, and I'm very interested in knowing whether or not that's going to be a way that we can do future connectivity for the town, since that's a topic that we are talking about as part of our master plan.
Good evening, Kelly Schaefer-Miller here on behalf of James and Karen Roth, who are the applicants. I do not have an answer to that question. I'm not certain of the walking path, so I'm going to ask. I know James and Karen are on here. I'm not sure if they're familiar with it, or if Andy Stein perhaps is familiar with it, but I'm sure overall, to the extent it works, so I think that could be, an asset to the site, but I'll ask them if they have any specific acknowledgement or awareness of it.
Yeah, I can take the question. Thanks for asking. I'm not exactly sure where it ends. I know that I think it does end in parcels 2, 3, or 4A, but it's definitely been a discussion in the past. But it is a little early right now too. So we can, Andy, who's our civil engineer, can notate it on the plans and we could make it a discussion.
It's not ADA compliant by any stretch of the imagination. For those that are not very familiar with the area, it's all hills through there, and it's through the woods, but it is something that I know a lot of people in town, especially in that area, use daily. Thanks.
Yeah, and whatever connectivity you can provide would certainly make the plans more palatable, So yeah, so as you're working on it, if there's any way to bring the connectivity piece together, because it terminates, that one trail terminates at the train track there. And while you're doing it, there's any way to connect a walkway or something, town would sure appreciate it. Okay, so there you go, Joe. We asked a question.
There you go. Perfect.
And a thoughtful one at that. Thanks, Jeremiah.
It was very good.
Yep.
So again, if we can just get a motion to accept the introduction of the resolution, and then, like I said, we'll send it on its review path, and it will come back to council at a later date for both public hearing and ultimate decision.
Motion to accept the introduction.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Thank you all.
Introduction's been approved. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience, Mr. and Mrs. Roth.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, our next mayor and town council meeting is Monday, February 22nd. This too will be a Zoom. We have volunteer opportunities available on the Historic District Commission, the Spark, the Police Auxiliary, and the Crossing Guard. You can email town@sykesville.net for more information about volunteering with the town. The town is also looking for individuals to serve on our Board of Election Supervisors Board, which you heard about the election tonight. So you can contact, again, Carrie. You can email town@sykesville.net for more information. You make a very large salary, and you're provided with some food. So it's a great opportunity. So staff updates is our next item. And I guess we'll start with you, Joe, and then we'll move on to the chief.
Yeah, really no significant update tonight. I did want to just publicly acknowledge all the work that the public works crews have been putting in over the last couple of weeks. We've had several snowstorms, and they've been out dealing with it every time, and then that's on top of their regular duties with garbage and recycling pickup, amongst many other things that they do on a regular basis. So a public acknowledgement that they've been working really hard and doing a great job for our town, and really appreciate all the work they do.
Okay.
And I would I'm going to let Chief probably tell a story, but I would normally acknowledge some of the good efforts of our police department right here as well. But I have a feeling the chief's going to let you guys know about some of the efforts that they've been doing.
Yeah,
absolutely will.
We'll let the chief. And I just wanted to jump on too and say, yeah, thanks to the public works guys for being out there. They've done a great job. I mean, I've noticed we've once again exceeded our surrounding areas in our clearing of snow and getting things back up quickly. So, and I know it always comes at night and on the weekend, and it's just, so thank you guys.
Nobody likes a show off except the town council.
Right.
Thanks, Derek.
Yeah. All right. So, Chief, you're up.
Very good. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We'll keep it kind of short tonight because this PSR only covers a little less than 2 weeks. So, as you can see, 303 total events. Just some highlights. 192 patrol checks. 23 traffic enforcement initiatives. I think we had a couple of assist other agencies and only one community policing event. So again, for I think 12 days, they've been busy. Page 2, you'll see we handled 9 incident reports during the same period. And there is one that I do want to highlight, as Joe mentioned. Our dynamic duo was at it again. Sergeant Kilgore and Officer Kirkner responded to basically an assist fire department call at Bex. This was on January 28th. Actually, Sergeant Kilgore had seen an email that we get anytime Carroll County dispatches fire and EMS. We actually get an email on our phones or our computers informing us that fire and EMS are being dispatched in our area. Luckily, Sergeant Kilgore saw that and saw that it involved a patient in cardiac arrest at Beck's restaurant. So Sergeant Kilgore and Officer Kirkner hustled over to Beck's. Thankfully, it's very close to the police department, so they were there, as you can imagine, within minutes, well ahead of the fire and EMS that were on the way. They found at that time a patient who was in cardiac arrest, who was being attended to by a citizen, Good Samaritan, who had stepped up and started CPR. Sergeant Kilgore relieved that citizen and initiated an assessment of the person's condition, and then continued with CPR on his own. Fortunately, Bex has an AED defibrillator on scene, and fortunately, Officer Kirkner was smart enough to seek that out and find it, and they were able to attach the AED to the patient, which in the AED, if you're familiar with them, it'll kind of tell you, it'll walk you through the steps and tell you whether a shock is needed or not. It in fact did say a shock was needed, and so they cleared. It administered a shock, and they actually were able to detect a pulse, and the patient actually started breathing. Shortly thereafter, fire and EMS arrived, transported the person to the hospital, and from what we know, the patient made a complete recovery. Just an amazing job by Sergeant Kilgore and Officer Kirkner. You'll remember just 2 weeks ago, they interceded in a barricaded situation with a subject who had a handgun. We're able to successfully talk him out of that situation, and here, 2 weeks later, they literally saved a person's life here in our town. So I couldn't be more proud of their actions as well as the actions of our other officers. And I just wanted to make you all aware of it. And I know you'll join me in being proud and congratulating them for work well done.
Yes, sir. That's awesome, man. So thank you. You guys, I mean, it's we got like one of the best police forces.
I agree.
Anyway, thank you, Chief, for that. And yeah, we'll definitely thank them individually and collectively. So thank you so much. I got some more to share about our police later, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll certainly be writing them up for life-saving awards during next year's awards banquet. And we're also going to try to recognize the good citizen who stepped up, because if he had not initiated CPR when he did, there's no saying what condition the patient would have been when we arrived. So he certainly was part of that life-saving cycle. And so we'll make sure we recognize his efforts as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Especially now, like everybody,
good stuff.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it's good people, man. So, any questions on the Chief's report items? Anybody got any questions? Okay. Well, Chief, thank you so much, man. Thanks for everything you guys are doing.
I don't know how any of us are supposed to follow that with our boring liaison reports, but we'll all give it a try. Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. So, yep, that brings us to our enlightening liaison reports. So we'll start with you, Al. You're at the top of the screen tonight.
All right. I don't know how that happened. So the merchants did have a meeting January 29th. It was well attended. I hope I don't get this. Lauren from the Natural Aesthetic Med Spa, which is opening soon, was there. So it was nice to meet her. There was a lot of discussion about this upcoming year, the events that are coming up. The next event is the Sykesville Shiver Shuffle, which is a 5K sponsored by the Eagle, the Eldersburg Rogue Runners down at Trisport Junction. area that's going on that the town knows about. March 20th is Get Lucky on Main Street, which is kind of like a bingo thing to go in with St. Patrick's Day. And then they talked a little bit about what was coming up in June and some other events further out. They had a lot of questions from me. I'm trying to bring up the email here that I passed on to Joe. They wanted to know what was going on with the Main Street markings that the county was doing. And it had to do with the upgrade of the sewer lines in the fall. They got some engineering going on. They talked a little bit about the Christmas decorations and how much they like the tree right on Main Street there near the Pocket Park. Really like that. Talking a little bit about trying to get lights going from one side of the street to the other. And there was talk of a special event permit in June, and how would they go about doing that. I passed along the permit process from Joe that was attached, and also talked about having tables on the sidewalk. The new business was wondering about just putting a promotional table out there for a couple weeks, letting everybody know she was open. And the next meeting is the last Friday in February, which would be, I don't want to give out a wrong date here, the 25th. It was a good meeting. Good way to start the new year.
26, Councilman Grassley.
26th, I'm sorry. I'm looking at Thursday. You're right. Sorry about that.
I only know because my report was going to say that was the last Thursday in the month, so that's how I knew.
Thanks for the correction. And that's it. It was a good meeting.
Good stuff, man. Thanks a lot. I'm glad the businesses are fighting through all this, and hopefully, I'm hoping some of the additional help that's coming out of the second round of PPP. Hopefully, some of the businesses can take advantage of that, especially the restaurants, because they can do 3.5 times their payroll this time, so it could be substantial. So I'm hoping they get some help from that.
Yeah, I did pass that information on to him, Mr. Mayor, that you emailed to me. And again, it was really just a good, optimistic, upbeat meeting. It was a good way to start the new year. Just a lot of fun. Everybody was enthusiastic. So.
Yeah, that's good stuff. We sent down the BGE grants too. So I'd sent that to Al to send out because BGE's giving out $500,000 in $20,000 grants. So we sent that down to them, and hopefully, and they seemed relatively, I was probably going to be very competitive, obviously, but we're a cool place, and I'm guessing we might be able to get one or two. That'd be awesome. So, all right, Jeremiah, you're on my screen next.
Thanks, Mayor. So no meetings with Raincliff Homeowners Association since our last discussion. And no meetings that I've attended for the Carroll County Board of Education either, although one is coming up here shortly that I'll report on in a future meeting that we have in a couple of weeks. I did want to provide a brief update in reference to the Maryland Municipal League Legislative Committee. We have had a meeting last Wednesday, the previous Wednesday, and we have another one coming up this Wednesday. And a lot of the legislation, we've looked at probably, 50 or 60 bills so far, but a couple of different themes that were important this year. One of them is that our major priority is the highway user revenues. We do have sponsors for that legislation, and we're moving forward with that. So that is good. That has to deal with the sunsetting of the highway user revenue budget out in 2024. And we're looking to get rid of that sunset so that we can continue to receive those funds and take off any of the state caps. So that's continuing to move forward. And that's something that all the municipalities have seen as a major priority this year. Another one of the themes that's out there is in relation to police reform. And obviously we hear from the chief and of the importance of the police within our community and the types of things that they do day in and day out. As you probably all know, this is a very contentious discussion that's going on all sides. And really doesn't matter what side you are on in reference to it. It's contentious even if you're in the middle, it seems like. It's been very interesting to be a part of those discussions. On the Maryland Municipal League, there's a chief that represents the chiefs within all the different municipalities. And he's providing a really, at least I find it personally to be a very balanced opinion in reference to, what the impact of different types of legislation are. And of course, the chiefs have the police chiefs themselves have an association that they're providing some input. We have not, within the Maryland Municipal League, provided an opinion yet in reference to many of the police reform bills that are out there. Some of the issues that we're seeing in the bills is that there's not a lot of funding availability for the municipalities. So this happens often with a lot of the bills that happen, is that, they put out a statewide bill and then there's no funding that comes with it. And then we have to figure out a way of being able to pay for that, whatever the changes are down the road. Sometimes they're immediate, sometimes it happens out in the future. One of the bills that's out there, just as an example of this, is putting the camera technology on all of the the uniforms or the gear. I don't know exactly what the terminology is, Chief. You can help me with that maybe, but is putting on the body cameras. So one of the, say that again?
Yeah, the body worn cameras. That's right.
Yeah. And so with that, they're talking about currently making sure that all the municipalities would have that in place by January of 2025. But again, it doesn't come with funding as of right now. There are over 10 different police bills that are out there. The reason I'm bringing it up is because, just for situational awareness, February 9th is when a lot of hearings will be held in reference to this, and a lot of people are referring to it as Police Day down in Annapolis. And so I just want to make people situationally aware that that's going, as that's been a major societal related issue. And of course, there's been even some protests within our own community in reference to that. And so if the public is interested, or if any of you are interested, there will be several hearings that happen on that day. I will say, say again.
That's tomorrow.
That's right. That's right. And my personal opinion on this is, this is something that affects all the different communities that are out there. It does seem as though that all of those different stakeholders, there's many different stakeholder viewpoints on this subject, and it does appear as though that they are being contemplated and robustly debated through this process. That's been my kind of observation of being on the Maryland Municipal League. We're one small sliver of a lot of those other stakeholder groups that are out there, but appreciate Mayor being able to have the opportunity to participate in that way. That's all I have to report.
Great. Thanks, Jeremiah. And I did want to share on that. I mean, I'll share now kind of on the things that, because we did have the Maryland Mayors Association meeting Friday last week, and this was a topic of discussion. And while I will say there was a robust discussion about this, and passionate, as you said, and and myself is, I made a passionate plea with them, what we need here, and I'm not sure we're going to get it. And I know what you're saying. And this was a robust and conversation with MML, but I don't know that that's happening at the state level. And really what my fear, and I talked about this with all the mayors that were participating, is we're going from one extreme to the next. Again, we always do that. We go from one extreme to the other extreme. And to Chief, and I'm going to ask you, to Chief, tonight to write a letter, because they had asked me to get you to write a letter about your difficulties recruiting officers in this environment. And that will help them. That will help MML to put these letters together. One of the things that I asked them for is to get more than just one police chief. It would be nice to have a collection of officers from around the state or law enforcement. What I really want, and so whatever you can do on the legislative committee side to keep that up too, is we need a balanced approach here. We need law enforcement at the table when these things are coming, and really to be on the other side of the table, because they know the day-to-day struggles that goes on with these types of legislation that are being considered. And some of them are just crazy. And I mean, so, and look, Libor is one of them, right? There's a bill currently from the Senate President, the House Chairwoman, to take away Libor, right? The Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights. So, and that just for the amount of money that we're starting, right, with officer salaries, right? The chief will tell you the amount of money you're paying these officers to open them up to full liability. And I told them as well to take this, that thing, chief, and you can get it out, that shoot, don't shoot, thing where they give you that like video where you have to make a quick decision of will you shoot or not shoot, right? And I know I tried a similar one and I shot like 4 citizens, because you got to remember this is life or death situation that you have to make split-second decisions. So what I'm getting at is there needs to be a balanced approach. And I understand there's some reform that needs to be done, but we can't just be the wholesale throw out the baby with the bathwater, and I want law enforcement to be a big part of that. So we had a spirited discussion on it at the mayor's conference, and I'm hoping that the legislature is going to really take careful time and not rush through these reaction bills to what's going on nationwide, because we get it, right? There's all these movements, but you need to take careful time to think and get it right. And law enforcement varies for each different community. One of my points for them too was some of these communities, there's a need for, so many officers per capita, and I was asking some of the mayors, think about that too. Why is there such a need for so many officers in some of these communities? And there needs to be, because obviously, as the chief could say, I mean, there's many times when you get so many officers in these communities, it creates problems because, the more officers, the more likely you're going to have problems, so just trying to have a balanced approach. But whatever you can do, Jeremiah, to carry that message forward through the legislative, and even MML said the same thing. What our goal here is to get a balanced approach and not to going from one side to the next. So it was passionate. The other thing that we had a lot of the cabinet secretaries and things come in and talk to us. So the other good thing that I'll share about that happened was a lot of the information for the vaccines. And I've got some websites and things. I'll get them to Carrie this week to maybe put on our website for the GoVax. They're just where you can get updates on where the vaccines are. There's a lot of resources from the state, and I copied those links. So I'll get them to Carrie so you can follow up. You can see like where they're opening vaccines, what phase they're in, who's got them, and that kind of stuff. So had a good conversation with them, as well as economic development, some of the things that they're working on. And just to let people know, we have the resources. I think Al might be a good time to maybe do another one of those calls with Commissioner Rothstein and Tamar Osterman, who is our commerce representative. And she did a great job early on with Commissioner Rothstein helping us to get resources to the business and making sure they have the resources and tools they need and during this time. So it might be a good time to reach out to them and see what new programs are available and what options there are for business to get help. So we had that conversation.
Yeah, I did bring that up, Mr. Mayor, and actually, I forgot to mention they do want to have another meeting just to thank the commissioner. They really think that our county's been, doing more than above and beyond other counties. They were very thankful for the commissioner for what was going on there. So I was talking about doing that in February and March. So we'll probably do it in March, bring it up in the February meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. And then they're still planning on having the fall conference in person. Haven't got all the details coming up for that, but so the Maryland Municipal League conference right now is still looking like it's going to be in person. So they're starting to finalize all the stuff and get it together. I don't know if we're going to be able to have as many people attend, obviously for capacity reasons, but we'll see. how that all shakes down coming up soon. And then they are going to do the If I Were a Mayor contest. There was some discussions about not having that or vastly trimming it back or some other items, but they went ahead to go ahead and spend due to the revenues, because there wasn't revenues coming in this year, obviously from sponsorships and things from MML. The numbers are way down because, they get lots of people come and sponsor it and vendors, and they didn't have the conference and all that. And then the mayor's conference was free this year, so because it was all online. So just a lot of that stuff. So other than that, did not have any additional updates for you from the gatehouse or from the schoolhouse, the colored schoolhouse. So those since our last meeting. And I'll keep you posted on these other things and get the links out to Carrie. All right, thanks for listening to my passionate plea, but there's a lot going on in Annapolis this year. It's going to be a busy session. So we're working on a number of things, and then we'll keep you posted as things develop. Leo, you're up next.
Yeah, Dan and Julie pretty much covered everything for me. We are not having a board meeting this month. Next month in March, I think it's the 13th, we're doing a virtual retreat to plan ahead for the following year. So that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Leo. And thanks for everything you've done to help coordinate with them too this year. I know it's been challenging, and we appreciate all your efforts as well. All right, Stacy, you're up next.
Thank you, Mayor. So from Sykesville Parks and Rec perspective, we at our last meeting, we discussed our 2021 event calendar, pretty much have that, I would say, for the most part, hammered out. Wanted to get that over to Chief Spalding for a heads up. We also discussed our 2021 concert idea where, I shouldn't say but Spark has annually done, or at least tried to have several concerts in the park, and they're weather dependent. We're actually looking at trying to do more of like a music festival of sorts later in the summer, and have multiple bands available. It may be as big or as small as it will be permitted with respect to the status of the pandemic and related precautions, but that's kind of the angle we're looking at now with respect to our music and or the concerts, I should say. And we also discussed our current policy for profit use in our parks. We have had some interest expressed by yoga instructors and owners of yoga indoor spaces that aren't able to practice as they would like in the current pandemic conditions. So we, with that interest, we're provoked to have that conversation. That discussion is ongoing. And something I wanted to announce was that, and I shamefully don't know the Girl Scouts troop number, but it's the same troop that has done so much for us here in Sykesville with respect to keeping our plants watered at our at the parklet, keeping those flowers watered, and also they are responsible for our free library there in front of the townhouse. Take a book, give a book, and they are currently, and I'm very proud of them. They've collected, I don't remember the number, but it was an insane number of bottle caps, which are being upcycled or recycled into, upcycled into the production of what's called a buddy bench. And so that's the placement of that. I believe staff was going to review with the troop leader where would be a good location for that bench. But so that'll be a gift, if for lack of better terms, for passerbys.
Stacy, they collected 200 pounds.
Jeez Louise. I don't even know how many caps that is, but 200 pounds is a lot of plastic bottle caps. Thank you, Jana. So yeah, that was our last meeting agenda, and it was very productive. Of course, it was virtual. Our next virtual Spark meeting is going to be on the 25th. That is always our fourth Thursday of the month. This month it's Thursday, February 25th. at 6 p.m. It'll be streamed live on Facebook, and a Zoom will welcome any and all interested viewers and or participants. That's all.
Great, thank you. All right, our next up in the screen is Mark.
So the Planning Commission finally met after a drought of several meetings. Not nearly exciting, but let me go over what happened. Some guy named Joe came in and talked about the comprehensive plan update. That was pretty exciting. To add to the excitement, they're talking about having a meeting on the 16th to the 18th, and the thrill of which day it will be really made the meeting. Troy put up a PowerPoint, and he claimed to have it, hope to have it before the council by spring 2021. And to give you some idea how little happened at the meeting, the county update consisted of no actions and a simple FYI to us. But I do have something I want to talk about. You mentioned, Mayor, the balance between police and those policed. Carroll County Community College has a thing called Democracy Lab. And in Democracy Lab, they get people of different opinions together and try to bridge the gap of understanding. And our police chief has agreed to participate in an upcoming session in May, and he's actually decided to help recruit some other chiefs of police where people can talk about issues on their minds, and community leaders of all. We're trying to come to a center opinion instead of having the pendulum swing from one crazy side to the other crazy side, sort of meet in the middle where everyone makes sense of it. And I thank him for attending. And lastly, you mentioned about vaccines. I happen to know someone who's working with the contact tracing effort. I happen to know they should be in 1C, but because of limited availability, they're still servicing 1B people, but it's moving along. Anyway, that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Mark. Okay, and then Anna.
All right, I'm up last, and I wanted to take this moment to express my gratitude for being in the town of Sykesville. Throughout this meeting, I was listening to the DSC and all the amazing things that they've done in a terrible 2020 and the upcoming 2021 with all their new ideas. And the chief and all the police officers doing an amazing job. And then the public works working behind the scenes. The only time that we see them is when our trash cans are empty and our roads are plowed. It just brings joy to my heart to know that we live in such a unique town. So thank you. With regards to the historic district, we did not meet last month in January. Our next meeting is scheduled, if we have any applications, for the 4th Tuesday of February, which would be February the 23rd at 7 o'clock via Zoom, if we have any applications. Carrie, do we have any applications so far?
Not yet, but we'll see what comes in.
Okay, so stay tuned. We'll send out notification if there is a meeting.
I just want to say something with respect to the HDC, the Historic District Commission, and the project, the rehab to that house on Springfield. I'm sure everybody at this virtual table has driven by and seen its progress. It's really turned into something beautiful, and obviously it takes someone with a lot of character and stick-to-itiveness to do something like that. But I know that it was under the direction of the HDC and their strong counsel and education that led to what seems to be going to be another beautiful home that we can call part of our historic district. So kudos to you guys and what you do.
Yes, it's amazing how you can take a building, and that's what it was. It wasn't a house, it was a building in such disrepair, and then you have somebody that just wants to pour love into it, and it turns out beautifully. It makes the town better.
No, that's awesome. Yep. So, and I know you had a vision for that one, so it makes it like when you get to see. All righty. Okay, so I think I didn't miss anybody, right? We got everybody. Yep. So Anna, thank you. All right. Any other comments? Are we good? I think that's how we got this evening, correct, Joe?
I think we're all set, Mayor.
I get my second dose tomorrow.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Steve, did you have any after effects or any type of anything from it?
You're not supposed to ask me that for 3 days after my second dose. I'm got myself psyched out about this second dose because all of my friends in the healthcare front lines that have had their second dose, if they have side effects, it's with that one, but only half have and half have not. So, but nothing with the first. How about you, Mark?
No, I haven't had mine yet because, like I said, there's a shortage. But my daughter is in a higher category because of her lab work, and she didn't have many problems. I mean, a little bit, but as I said to her and to my wife, I'd rather be sick for 2 days than the alternative. But it wasn't that bad. She made it through without too much trouble.
Good. Well put. I'll let you know, Anna.
And they were that
several of the police department did experience some minor side effects after that second shot. And I don't want to psych you out or anything, but it was like having the flu for like 1 day.
I'll take it. That's good to know. Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
And they did say Johnson & Johnson is predicted to get their approval within the next week or so. And then they're projected to have 100 million doses by the end of June of that single shot vaccine. And the cool part about that one is made right here in Baltimore. So the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So hopefully that'll help get more herd immunity moving, right? Once we can get all these vaccines producing. And then I think Pfizer's making a lot more. So hopefully we'll start to see a real uptick in vaccinations. So. All right. I think that's everything. We covered everything. So if we get a motion
to adjourn.
All right. We've got
give it to Leo. Give it to Leo.
Right, well, you can take the second. We'll give Leo the motion and Al can second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. We are adjourned.
Night, everybody.
Night all.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.